I've been planning it for a while, but as every guy out there will know, it takes a certain amount of motivation to get yourself going. So I was planning it, and then it just felt really right out in Africa. It was beautiful at the time, and I had done a little bit of planning to obviously show my romantic side.
Here's George Galloway, It's the Week, and that, of course, was Prince William, who had done a bit of planning to show his romantic side, which isn't the most romantic way of approaching that. But he popped the question, and the girl said yes. And a pretty momentous question, a pretty momentous answer, at least for her, because, well, hey, if God spares her, that means she's going to be the Queen of England, the Queen of Britain, the Queen even of Canada, where I'm broadcasting to you now from downtown Toronto. If you live under a rock, you might have missed the news, but it was on Tuesday it was announced that Prince William and Kate Middleton became engaged in October during a private holiday in Kenya. They seem to like Kenya, the royals, and we'll be talking in a minute to a man who knows a thing or two about the royals, generation after generation. Not that I'm suggesting that he's that old, but he knows about the royal family. He's James Whittaker of the Mirror Group. I read from his Daily Mirror article in which he insisted he wasn't being snobbish, but he wondered whether Kate quite had the class for the gig. So who better to kick us off this evening than the very same James Whittaker. James, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Yes, indeed. Good evening, George.
Very incendiary comments. Tell
I've
me,
been saying them
how
for
much
some
class?
months, actually.
Yeah, but how much class do you need, James? You need to be as classy as the Duke of Edinburgh?
As such. It depends how you define the word class. What I believe is that she doesn't have the background, the upbringing, the training that came from when she sat on a potty to deal with being queen. I think there's going to be a big problem. She's a quick learner. Maybe she'll get there in time, and maybe she's got another 20-odd years before she ever has to get into the position of being queen.
But Diana had all that background, and she didn't turn out to be all that suitable at all.
You're absolutely right. She did have all the background. She, too, people just don't believe this, she, too, was a commoner, but she was a fairly aristocratic one. And the problem with that marriage, George, was very simple. She was in love with him. He wasn't in love with her. He was in love with another woman, and that completely threw her, rocked her, threw her. I think from the word go, I think from the day they actually got married at St. Paul's, I think she knew that he wasn't in love with her. I think she believed she could turn him round and that he would learn to love her because she was very attractive, very pretty, a very anxious to please lady, but it never happened. That's why that didn't work. That's why she couldn't get it to work.
Now, you've said she should stay pretty, produce an heir and a spare, and don't do a Fergie. Let's take them in reverse order, James. What must she do to avoid doing a Fergie, apart from being photographed having her toes sucked?
Yeah, no, not being a Fergie. She mustn't behave as if she's a kid in a sweet shop where she just couldn't believe her luck. She couldn't believe that everybody wanted to invite her to dinner, which she readily accepted. Even in the early days, she had too much to drink. She'd give uproarious parties in public restaurants, which really a Duchess of York shouldn't be doing. She just revelled in the whole fact of being a member of the royal family, which must have astounded her, because I liked her father, Ron Ferguson, very much, but he had been Prince Charles's polo manager, for goodness sake, and for her to end up...
It doesn't get much lower than that, James.
As I say, I liked Ron, but she was absolutely unsuitable to be the wife of Prince Andrew, who I have no great love for. I think he's a bit of a dolt.
Well, indeed, I mean, if one were investigating the genetic heritage of it all, they don't add up to a race of Olympians, do they? I mean, how clever, how classy do you need to be to keep up with that family?
I don't think you need to be clever. I think it's a positive disadvantage in many ways, because if you're very bright and you sit and analyse exactly what you have to be as a senior member of the royal family and what you have to do, your brain must cloud over at times, and you think, my God, what the hell am I doing in this setup? I mean, look at Prince Philip. He is a very bright man, and that's why he makes these comments all the time, these outrageous comments about people. I think he's just so mind-numbingly bored that he's had to do these duties for all these years that he just throws these pebbles into the water to create a few ripples. No, I think it's a help not to be too bright.
Yeah, maybe. Now, if it's not too churlish, now that the man's engaged, I mean, who, because you've been saying this for some months, what sort of person ought to he have married?
Well, I